Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Small Teams, Big Wins. I am your host, Jordan, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Ben and Darien and Goss. Today, we have the pleasure on St. Patty's to be joined by Jennifer Vines. Jennifer, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time to join us.
Of course. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you. Absolutely.
Happy St. Patty's. Yeah, well, we were just getting, talking about that before. I was like, okay, let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got the St. Patty's necklace going on. Do you have any other plans? You got some green beer in your future?
I think you have to. So we're in Texas. So I think we have to do wings and green beer later on. That's pretty much a default for us here. There was the big St. Patty's Day parade last Saturday. I did not go. I think I've reached that point in my life. We used to go every year. Think I've reached that age in my life where I can just say, I hope they had fun, go for it, rock on. But I'm going to sit this one out this year.
Yeah, I think I believe you like 80 to 85%. I think I believe you about 80 to 85%. I think there's still 15% of you that you're really having to like force down to like not go, I think you're still,
you hit on it. Yeah, hit on it. Yeah. And my husband, I will tell you, quick story. My husband, we went this was probably 10 years ago. And Jello shots were there first thing. And you got to be there at like 9:30. We hit 11 o'clock. He's about 17 Jello shots in. The parade just started. I look over, he's in a little stadium chair, head down. And so we lasted about 30 minutes of the parade, but the pregame, that's what we were there for, the 9:30 a.m. pregame.
And so what you're telling me is that back in your heyday of St. Patty's, you were actually a teacher. You were in education, weren't you?
I was. I taught for years. Absolutely. Don't you love how those two mash up? Teacher, St. Patty's Day parade. I was monitoring. That's all it was. I was out there monitoring and supervising everybody. That was my job.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Seeing your teacher out and about in their daily routine. I love it.
Oh yeah, no, those were funny. They see you out of the building and they're like, "Wait a minute, you have a life? What are you doing out here?" Yeah.
Yeah. What part of Texas are you in?
So we are about an hour southeast of Dallas. So we live on a lake out here that's just about an hour outside. We left in 2017. We left the city. My daughter went to college. We didn't have to be in a school district anymore. So we waved goodbye and we're out here in the country with our country folk. We love it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I know Jordan has some deep ties to Texas, and visiting in and around Dallas and Austin area and in Houston recently, and love Texas.
Yeah, Houston's an experience all on its own. Brave to venture into Houston, especially if you're going to drive anywhere. It's insane.
Yeah. I had some friends that lived there for quite some time. One of them's a personal chef, and other ones worked in the oil business and grew up with them. And quite the experience. We did the whole Houston Heights, light. It was like, I don't know. We did a bunch of different things. He took us out to this farm where you go and shoot hogs, and you just go on this 4x4, take your, whatever guns you want to bring, and just go and start ripping. And then you gut them afterwards, do the whole thing. Yes. And I'm like, this is a true Texas experience, and I am here for it.
You were all in. Absolutely. My husband has hunted hogs. He's got a hunting lease up in Quanah, North Texas. And, he would tell me about these hogs. Well, all I had in my mind was these cute little piggies. I was like, this is horrible. Why are you shooting these cute little piggies? Well, I was at the ranch one time and they caught one in a trap, and I saw the tusks and I saw this SOB that just wanted to kill me. And I was like, oh no, go ahead. Get rid of all of them. That's it. We're done.
They're fierce.
I think that's a story a lot of Texas people who grew up in Texas can relate to, because when I moved to Pittsburgh, because I lived there for 7 years,
Yeah.
Those kind of stories never surprised me. And I remember telling my friends kind of a matter of fact, like, oh yeah, I had friends that would go out hunting hogs on their land. They're like, what?
Oh, those poor piggies.
Yeah, when you were in middle school, that's what you do.
Yeah. When you see what they have to offer and what they want to do to you, you have no problem waving goodbye at all.
Yeah, I still think my favorite Texas tradition is at the rodeo when you have all the like young little kids and they all have to run out there and go try and track down are they little pigs?
Mutton busting. It's sheep.
Yeah.
They'll do sheep.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Sometimes they will do baby pigs, and then sometimes they'll do calves. No, that's the most precious thing. That's hilarious. Watch, and some of those
their little helmets on.
People dive to get that little thing. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's electric. I think most of the adults actually are going there for that more than the actual rodeo. Yeah.
Right. Just to see the kids. Greatness.
I love it. Well, amazing. So Jennifer.
Yes.
You started Eddy and you're tackling something pretty I would say amazing and probably daunting at the same time, which is trying to improve the efficiency of healthcare administration. And you're trying to do it from a software SaaS platform perspective, from transitioning from your kind of history of being in education and as a teacher.
Yeah.
So your story is fascinating to me because especially when we're talking with entrepreneurs, founders, people that are trying to do mission-driven, human-centric work, right? That's what we love to spotlight. That's who we want to talk to. And I'm just very, very interested in wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about, before we get to credentialing and the major problem that you're trying to solve, because we will get there, I promise.
Yeah.
But I want to ask if you can let our audience know a little bit about maybe that moment when you decided to leave the classroom and you were having lunch with your high school kind of fellow colleague, classmate.
Yeah.
And you're kind of telling this, what you're aiming to do to tackle within just kind of educational administration. And she said something and you had to go ahead and grab yourself a beer, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of process. So can you kind of walk us through just that kind of story? It's fascinating.
Of course. So one of the first books my parents bought when I was a toddler was called The Strong-Willed Child. That pretty much puts it in a bucket all of itself. But I was a teacher for years, both public, private school. Did not like the bureaucracy that was coming in. Did not really like to be told to do it this way when I knew there was a better way to do it. I was always that person sitting back. But could we do it this way? Is there some other way to make this more efficient, more impactful, and have make a bigger mark? And so I left the classroom, went into independent consulting. I was an educational consultant for families in Dallas, mostly private school families, working on test prep, getting them into college. And realized that the high school application process, Dallas is mostly private schools. It just is. Our public schools are failing. And so most the, population of families that I was working with were private school. The process to apply was all paper. It was ridiculous. It was inefficient. And they were asking each teacher to fill out reference forms for every student applying, and you had to do that over and over again. It's ridiculous when teachers were already overworked and underpaid. So I came up with this dual platform system where a student, you think of it, I explain it now and it seems like such common freaking sense, but where a student would fill it out one time and send it off to multiple private high schools for an application process. I thought I was brilliant. And so met with a high school classmate of mine, and I knew he was in healthcare adjacent. He was in staffing, and I knew he had money. So I go and have lunch with him, and I said, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm stepping out. I'm leaping. I gave this brilliant elevator pitch. I was ready. I was cutely dressed. And he looked at me and he said, no. He said, you're not doing this in education. Leave that alone. There's not enough money in that. Our credentialing is a nightmare. And I said, great. I have no idea what that means, but good luck. Hope you figure it out. And he goes, no, this is exactly the architecture that we need in credentialing. And I said, I'll have a beer. That's when I ordered my drink for lunch. And I said, okay, what is this? What are we doing? What's the problem? And so we sat for another hour. He explained it to me. 2 weeks later, I formed this company, and we were off and running. The first thing I did was surround myself with people in this space who knew more about it than I did. I didn't care if they were technical or not, but I wanted to listen to what's the problem? Why is everybody bitching about this and nobody doing anything about it? And why me? Where do we start? That was the beginning of the end, as they say.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That really speaks to me in two levels, honestly. The one side being a pain in the ass to the bureaucracy, right? It's just like my whole life, you go and take a magnifying glass to it. It's like, yeah, it's been there the whole time.
The whole time. I mean, the whole time. I was the kid in class. If I was going to raise my hand, the teacher was going to do the eye roll.
Yeah, but it's because I agree with you. There's always seems like there's a more efficient, a smarter, a better way of tackling things that just like can't be implemented large scale. And so, like, first off, I want to say, like, I totally agree, and I love that you took that leap, because I also took a leap from teaching into software, and it was a bit scary at first, but it's so rewarding being able to do things your own way, and on a small team, being able to like soundboard off of people who know more than I do about these things, and really grow and learn a lot that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it funny how as teachers, you know, I think what it is too is you're watching the youth come up in this framework of either be quiet and just go along, or be one of those who speaks up. And to me, if you're willing to speak up, thank God, because it means you were actually paying attention. If you're just going along blindly, you're really not that engaged in my mind.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I've experienced something recently with this exact situation. It's like I'll give you the exact example, actually. So in real estate, a common industry practice is when you become licensed, you're a provisional broker, you go under a brokerage firm, and when you get paired up with this brokerage firm, then immediately they say, hey, we're going to take another licensed veteran, and you'll do your first real estate transaction with them. So your first listing, you do it with them, and you have to pay them a certain percentage of your commission just for them helping you. And, this was an industry practice standard that was applied somewhere along the line of creating a brokerage firm. And what didn't make sense to me, coming from multiple different backgrounds and businesses, is that, when you adopt someone and hire someone a part of your team, the normal thing you want to do is train them as much as you'd like for however long you'd like until they are up to speed to what your standards are. There's no reason to take a commission for trying to help someone that you just hired on your team. So what's going to happen the next time, the next deal, that you're not going to learn how to do, be a professional in real estate after the first deal. So what about the next 20? So just by stopping after the first one, it means that, they're completely trained to your standard. Why would you not take that practice along the next 20? But why does it make sense to, take commission from someone when, you're just trying to help them and help them help you grow your company? So it's like an industry practice that has someone implemented and no one has changed. and it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I got my real estate license just to do my family office and my personal stuff. And I ended up not agreeing with this so much that I've caused so much chaos within the company just by speaking up multiple times about this situation. And it's just very interesting. But it's definitely worth speaking up about, because it's just someone says, hey, this is how we're going to do things. And then people just do it for however long until there is that someone that says, you know what, there's a better way to do this. And it's definitely worth speaking up about. Right.
You have to. Yeah. We're not going to get anywhere or improve anything if we don't cause a little chaos along the way. Right.
Exactly. Hey, I have to answer this phone call really quick. I'm sorry. I'm going to just mute my mic and video real quick.
You're all good, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, it's so important, right? Like, how do you emphasize to the next generation? But even so, we do a lot of work with like mentorship's very important to us, and especially when it comes to educating on cybersecurity in particular in like the modern age, is just now kind of getting up to grips. But so we do a lot of work with Carnegie Mellon and some of the grad students over there, but even wanting to kind of take it further, and how do we kind of drop it down through the grades to start getting a lot of these core things that you're talking about, right? Like, how do you kind of question the status quo? How do you build up, courage and confidence to actually speak up when you're noticing that something, to even ask a question, right? And so, I just think that that's really cool, and just some very, very impactful work. So go ahead, buddy.
That was a nice, perfect segue into the next point, actually. So talking about challenging the status quo and confidence to go and bring something new. Jennifer, you went to a national conference with designs for this platform, but no real product.
I had airwear. I had fabulous airwear that I was ready to
I love it.
Yeah.
So could you tell me what it was like to talk to people there, hear about their complaints? What was going through your minds whenever you were going there? Because you obviously had a plan for business. You were attending the conference, right? You were taking steps to grow your business. Why did you go, and what did you learn there?
So I went because, number one, I wanted to kind of launch us. I wanted to get our name out there, and I just wanted to listen to people complain. That's it. I had my competitors in front of me, these big groups with these elaborate conference build outs, and, they bring in, their fluffy carpets and their chairs, and they're all decked out, and they've got all the swag. And here we were in this little 10 by 10. And I just wanted to listen to people complain. And so as they left our competitors and were walking by, we just said, what's wrong with the process? Tell us what is the most frustrating thing. We went through notebook after notebook after notebook with all of our notes in there. You would be amazed. Actually, no, you would have expected exactly what we got. It's not even amazing. It is, it was almost people's private conversations. We've all had the conversation with our computers, right? Where you're doing something and something goes wrong, and you're now bitching out a computer because it's not doing what you wanted it to do.
Yeah. My 7:30 to 8 a.m. this morning. Yeah.
Over and over. Right. That's exactly it. Yeah. It's kind of a bit. What are you doing? Well, it's the computer. But it was almost like all of those private conversations that they had been having with their software just flooded in. And it was, well, they don't do this, they don't do this, or they do this and it's wrong. And these are, I will say, about 90% of them are women, while our competitors are led by mostly men. So these women talking to another woman, and their ideas were brilliant because they're doing the work day in and day out. They are in the trenches. They are overworked. They are far underpaid. And all they wanted was to be heard. And so we sat and we listened and we took notes and we shared ideas. And that was the most priceless piece of information that I got, was from those participants. And that's when we went back to the drawing board. We spent 2 years. That was in 2016. 2018, we launched our software based on what they had told us. And that was all she wrote.
That's awesome. And so I'm sure there were original parts of your plan that you cut and then things that you added. So how did that feel whenever you were like, okay, my plan just got all these holes poked in it?
Yeah.
It can feel demoralizing at first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, completely. I thought I had some great ideas, and I thought the people that I had brought on with me, we had come up with these ideas. But it was liberating almost. And I say that in a way that I knew I wasn't going to waste my time on what didn't matter to them. So there's a huge risk, as you know, when you build a software and you go put it out there and you're running maybe your beta testing, and you start to get that feedback and you're like, oh, wow, well, I suck. That was great money and time well spent, not. And so it was liberating because I had gotten that feedback before we ever started. Before we had, we had some designs, but before we put anything to code, we had that immediate feedback from them. And so I knew then that what I put out there was going to work. It was going to work because I had listened to those that I wanted to sell to.
Amazing. Yeah. And I want to talk to that a little bit, because kind of up until this point in the conversation, it's kind of been, have figured out a need, right? And then we kind of went and tested it. And, there's this kind of ambiguous software, right? So can we go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about just what is credentialing within the healthcare kind of administration process, and what, because I think this is going to kind of blow some people away, and I also want to talk about what the cost of poor credentialing actually looks like, how that's impacting kind of millions of lives. Because, man, when we were first talking about it, Jennifer, I was like, man, oh my gosh, that's a very widespread, deep impact here, which is why it's such an important challenge for driven people like you to go after. You know what I'm saying? So do you mind just kind of speaking to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So administrative costs in healthcare, they cost us an estimated 15 to 30% of total spending in the healthcare space, just admin. So as we're sitting back, and we know the national conversation about healthcare is big. We talk about, I went to the doctor, I saw him for 30 minutes and I came out with a $10,000 bill. Okay. It's not that doctors are getting paid more. They're getting paid far less. It's not that medicine costs more. As we advance technologically and in pharmaceuticals and in that realm, the cost should be coming down. So that doesn't make sense. So when you take a look at this chunk of admin cost, that is what is contributing to the elevation in our healthcare expenses in our country. For you to go and look at what is being done on paper right now in healthcare admin in 2026, it's ridiculous. There's no excuse anymore. We are at a point that we have got technology to do these processes, to complete these processes in an efficient way. So credentialing. When a provider, and a healthcare provider, I mean doctor, optometrist, nurse, surgery tech, behavioral health, any healthcare provider that is going to see patients has to go through what's called credentialing. Well, credentialing means we have to verify who you are. So we have to take every piece of your professional background, your medical license, your DEA certification, your education, both undergrad and graduate, your training, your certificate of insurance, reliability insurance, all of these pieces, and not just verify them like you show it to us and we say, yes, you have it. We have to verify it with what's called a primary source. And the healthcare industry has determined what are those primary sources. Things like the actual school where you got your degree. We have to contact them. We have to go straight to the DEA. We can't just look at your certificate. We have to get it from the DEA to verify that it's real. So this process has to be done before you can see patients. It is part of accreditation standards. So when a healthcare facility is accredited, they agree. They say, okay, we're going to put into place these policies that we will do this every 2 to 3 years. So that's the credentialing piece that has to be done. But what we have are organizations within healthcare that are monopolizing the and monetizing the data. So the AMA, we think the American Medical Association's fantastic. It's so great. All these doctors are members. They're monetizing provider data. So if we want to get a really clean file of the provider's information to go a little bit faster through the process, the AMA is going to charge us $40 every time. It's crazy.
Every request. Yeah.
And the providers are already paying a membership fee.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're selling their data. Then we have the specialty boards. So if a doctor is an internal medicine specialist, well, a lot of those specialty boards, they're not sharing APIs for us to easily just get the information and do it faster. Nope, they're holding it back. You have to pay for it. You have to retrieve it. When they talk about interoperability of data, they just mean their own interoperability to make the money and monetize the provider data. And so this whole process, so a provider comes in and says, okay, I want to work at this hospital. And so the hospital will say, okay, we need you to fill out this form. Great. They fill out the form, they give it to them. Then the admin office comes back and says, oh yeah, hey, we need you to fill out these 3 forms because we need to do this, this, and this, and we need more information. Okay, fine. Doctors know they're responsible for their professional information. They want a new job, they got to provide it. Well, then they come back and say, oh, wait, hold on. Now we're going to enroll you in insurance companies. We need a little bit more information. It is this back and forth of retrieving data. All the while, you are losing an estimated $10,000 in delays per month of deferred revenue because you can't even bill out for that provider. So the credentialing is the first piece that if you're looking at an average with larger organizations of $2 to $5 million that you can lose on a provider as these delays continue. So that's the first step. Once they're credentialed, then we have to enroll them in payers, our friends, the insurance companies. This is where the insanity continues.
Yeah.
You are enrolling a lot of paper applications still. They even publish their fax numbers still, so you can fax over an application. But some of them more advanced, we've got online portals. They will not release their APIs so that my system that already has all this information for the doctor can just automatically populate those forms. They won't do it. They will not release. So again, there is no interoperability of data in healthcare, and it is causing these enormous delays. The insurance companies as well. So you submit the application, the number of full-time employees they have working on this application process and going through the enrollment process, once again, not only slows you down, but it is costing us billions of dollars. It is the most inefficient process that I've ever seen. it's usually my field, this space is about 10 years behind in technology compared to the rest of the world and other verticals.
So we're talking delays for paper credentialing, revenue loss.
Yeah.
Talking immense prices to get the data and information you need. And like you mentioned, just to bring it back, who is getting this bill at the end of the day?
Oh,
right. It's the individual who goes in to see the doctor, who needs the medical care. So if it's not clear yet, the work that Jennifer is doing to help people, I hope that this clears it up. Like this is really cool stuff that you're working on here, Jennifer.
You know, and I got to a point because, again, years ago, as I'm sitting with my high school friend talking about healthcare admin and credentialing, it didn't really impact me. I was like, okay, well, it's a pain in the ass and we're going to fix it and we'll make it better. Great. But then as the years go on, I can't sit back and complain about healthcare costs myself as a personal consumer and not try to do something about it. And that's where I think the national discussion, I think this piece is being lost. We complain about doctors and we complain about the process and the high cost of building new hospitals and all of this. If you were to focus on this 15 to 30% of total spending in healthcare is in the admin space, you fix that, and I think you're well on your way to lowering healthcare costs for all of us if they want to.
Right.
There's the caveat.
There's the caveat. There's the caveat. Well, no, it's fascinating because, you know, we're obviously obsessed with, you know, inserting applications of technology for either industries or processes that have been somewhat legacy, right? And looking for efficiencies that way. And so you're seeing that across a whole bunch of different verticals, especially right now. It's like there isn't any industry that's not being kind of revamped. But you can clearly see the industries where there's not that monopoly blocker on someone reserving the cash and kind of preventing technological advancement, because then that means that there's going to be a little bit more distribution of wealth, or there might just be some cost savings or different things like that. So it's really, really interesting. And we're definitely seeing that across a bunch of different verticals and a bunch of different industries. But yeah, we absolutely are fascinated by, okay, we have all these like advancements in technology, and in the day and age where you can kind of use those towards, let me create like an Instagram campaign that gets people more hooked on technology or more hooked on the screens, or we can kind of take a more responsible human-centric approach, and we can really start looking at what are some applications, what are some pursuits that we can put this towards that are actually going to make a difference in people's lives for the better, you know? So yeah, to echo what Ben said, I applaud you for, I'm just very happy that you had that, you had the educational intuition to start looking into it, and then you went and got the bureau with your classmate. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Because, so Jennifer, thank you for providing that very detailed, thorough breakdown of the credentialing process and in the healthcare space. So you guys launched, I think you said like 2018, right? After you kind of went to the conference and did some of that. And it sounds like you were starting to get some real good momentum after you went, and things were looking good, right? And all of a sudden, how was, you know, March 2020 for you? How was the pandemic, and how did that you know, was that a blip on your radar? Did you notice that at all?
That little blip on my radar. So we were funded completely by friends and family. Completely. No institutional money behind us like our competitors. And so we're cranking along. We have a big health plan in Wisconsin as a new client that put faith in us. We're kicking ass. We're rolling. And so COVID hit, and we thought, okay, well, we were already working remote. We were remote before remote was cool. We were Zoom before Zoom became big. We were already doing it. So we thought, okay, we'll sit back a little bit. And immediately started in March. So August of that year, we start getting calls from our small clients. And what's the first thing they're going to get rid of to cut costs? It's going to be technology, software, subscription services, anything that they can now do manually or use spreadsheets. So we lost a few clients late in 2020. And then 2021 is when everything started to domino. We had 3 hospitals in Florida. We were supposed to meet at the end of 2020, start talking about contracting. Anything that was not COVID focused was put on the back burner. You could not spend money. You couldn't buy new software. So all of these potential clients that we had, that we were kind of lining up, they all had to pivot. Everything had to be spent on COVID and masks and whatever else they were doing. And so we took a huge hit. 2021, 2022 just kicked our tails. And again, because we didn't have that institutional money behind us, anybody to kind of prop us up. So we scaled way down, and we went internal. We kind of looked inward at our software and said, okay, if we're not going to be spending this time completely focused on sales and marketing because nobody's really buying right now, then we need to go internal. We need to look inside, look at our software and say, okay, if we're going to fix anything, if we're going to improve upon anything, let's do it. And that's what we did for a few years. 2023, we started picking back up. 2024, we kicked ass. And then 2025, we doubled what we did in 2024.
Amazing. Yeah. And, that journey that you're talking about too, gosh, like who in the entrepreneurial journey, we call it small teams, big wins, but we love hearing about the losses, the challenging times, the times where, because like who goes through this journey and gosh, you have to be so adaptable and you have to be so resilient and you got to be willing to pivot and all that stuff. And we're experiencing that right now as far as, okay, we had kind of through our first year, 2 years had been working to get the work, right? To get the work. And then now we're starting to get the work. And so now we're, kind of professionalizing our approach in service delivery and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And whenever I think about, so one, I want to applaud you for taking that time and going, well, marketing spend probably isn't the best way to be utilizing our time right now. Okay, let's go towards the product. Right. And whenever I'm thinking about really, really adaptable people, Darien, you actually come to mind, brother, as far as, people that are able to kind of always, like whenever you're juggling like a big thing of water, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can go one way and then it comes back the other way. Darien's just always so stable and so good. So Darien, I was just wondering, man, like, can you share a little insight on how that, how do you kind of maintain that approach and how do you do it across different ventures and just kind of juggling all that?
Yeah. So one of the main things is just accepting that there's going to be failures. You know that there's going to be tons of failures throughout your life, whether it's emotionally, physically, with relationships, in business. There's just gonna be. That's what life is. It's about things just not going well and then you fixing them and things going right. So once you really accept that fact that you're going to face challenges in every aspect of life, then when a problem happens and when a problem occurs, then you just say, hey, great, let's figure out the solutions versus fuck, I'm gonna sit here and dwell on it for 2 weeks and then and it's going to cloud my judgment. And then we're going to lose time. We're going to lose money. My judgments, the solution I come up with is not going to be the best solution. So it's just like, oh, there's a problem. Great. Let's fix it, and then just moving forward and fixing it. And I think that a lot of people dwell on these problems so much that like it's unexpected, but at the same time, maybe that exact problem's unexpected, but at the same time, the problem is expected because it's a problem and every problem can be expected in anything that you do. So, it's just really about coming to terms with that and then just saying, fuck it, let's just figure it the fuck out and make shit happen,
I love it.
My 2 favorite words after a problem arises, now what?
Yeah.
Now what? As you said, if you're going to sit and wallow in it, well, great. Somebody else is going to go out and kick your ass and do it better and figure it out and surpass you. So if you get hit with a problem, thank you. Now what?
Yep.
What am I going to do? Which way am I going to go? That's all you have. It's how you react to the problem that determines your success after that.
Yeah. And what I always tell people, especially people that are, I always say working with me, even if, I'm at a like kind of leading any sort of aspect, but I always say, look, when you're facing a challenge, go through the process of figuring out the solutions yourself, and then bring those solutions to the table that we can all talk about. And, instead of here's a problem, then give it to the next person to try and figure out the problem. You don't learn anything that way. And collaborating in all sorts of senses is key, and trying to figure out your own solutions versus, just passing it off. I always try to promote that as much as possible, and making everyone aware, like, it's okay to, even if you bring bad solutions, at least you went through the process of coming to a conclusion of what you would do. And, when you bring it to someone that may or may not have more experience, but in different experience and different challenges they face, they may apply a different perspective of thinking that, you bring a hybrid solution, what this person's solution is, what this person's solution is, and there could be a hybrid that works perfectly well together. But by just offering the problem to someone else, could prevent, could cause more problems itself. You know what I mean?
Right. Solve it now, get it out of the way, and then just wait for the next one, because it's going to come. Something's going to happen. You're going to lose a client. Somebody's going to decide not to go with you and to go with your competitor. Those things are always going to, not COVID, hopefully, but those things are always going to smack you in the face. So decide what you're going to do about it. Stop wasting time just wallowing in it. Move on. Do something different.
100%.
No, 100%. It's such, 100%. It's such a great reminder. Like,
yeah.
If you're going to go into the entrepreneur journey, you're going to kind of pursue something that lights you up. It ain't going to go perfect. And it's definitely not going to go according to plan. But that's the whole point, right? That's the whole reason why we're all doing what we do, is because we want to create from a vision that we have. And we like the challenge. I think that we'd all get bored if everything went straight according to plan. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, well, and Jennifer too. So let's also talk about being one of the only female-led ventures in your space. And so we're talking about things not going according to plan, and we're all males, right? So yeah. I imagine that there's been a soiree of different obstacles that have come up for you being a female leading a venture, particularly in the healthcare and healthcare administration space. Yeah. Whenever I kind of say that, and whenever I kind of bring that up, is there anything that comes to mind kind of throughout your journey where maybe early on that was prevalent, but now you're just, it's so not even a thing for you? Is there anything that kind of comes up?
Yeah. So I think back to that first conference and, being there, I'm in my cute little blazer. I'm all, this comes from being a teacher, like not dressing professionally, teacher dress. So I'm there at the conference, and I walked straight into the booths of our competitors, introduced myself to these executives and said, hey, we're new to the scene. We just launched, just wanted to introduce myself to you. And I still remember, it was 2 gentlemen. I still remember the name of the company. And the look they gave me was, this is so cute. This is so cute. You're going to try this, and this is going to be so cute. Like, it's so nice to meet you. Good luck. Whatever you need, we're here for you. And I just remember walking away just like, just wait. Because I'm going to take your clients. Watch. Because I saw that condescending look, and this is a very small niche space. You have maybe 5 legacy companies that are the big boys, and they started out as staffing platforms or some other kind of platform, and then they kind of adapted. They didn't want to redo anything. They can't pivot the way that we can, so they just adapted, or they bought some of the smaller competitors and then threw their software away, or maybe adapted part of it. And so they are so grounded in what they're doing and the way they're doing it, they haven't even thought outside of themselves that there could be a better way to do it. They're making money. They're making millions of dollars a year. They're just fine. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel or do anything differently. Years later, I remember going back to that same conference about 4 years later, and I had a little bit bigger booth, and I had software, and I had iPads out everywhere, and we had kind of had a little bit of a crowd coming over. And I remember looking over at those same companies, and then the look on their face was like, well, shit, here she comes,
How gratifying. Yeah, how gratifying.
Yes, if you guys may be a little on the younger side, but the movie Pretty Woman, when she goes back to the store and buys everything up, and so I say, we're going to Pretty Woman everybody in this space, because and even the comments at that, 4 years later, wow, I didn't expect to see you guys here. Why? We're still here, and we're still taking your clients. So of course we're going to be here. But what I have seen since then is when I go to conferences, and I love being the one to go to the conferences. I am the founder. I am the only CEO in our space that is the founder of the company. The rest of them have been hired because of their background and because they had experience. It's not their company. They are working for somebody else as an executive. So when I go to the conferences and I talk to people, I think I am much more effective than my competitors and who they send. And most of the salespeople they send are men. We're selling to a majority. I'm telling you, 90% of who we're selling to who are using our software are female. Now, you're going to have executives and the decision makers, that of course are going to be male and female above that. But those who need our software and who would benefit from it most, a majority of them are women. And so when I go and when I talk to them and they give ideas or they ask, well, could the software do this? And I'm writing this down, they are shocked. And then when I come back, and we do this with clients too, when I come back and say, hey, I used your idea. You had this fabulous idea, and I want you to see it here in the software that we actually launched this. We deployed this a couple of weeks ago. They're blown away that I even took the time to listen to them, because in the hospital and healthcare setting, the people doing this work are considered, their office is considered non-revenue generating. Let that sink in for a second. The office that is the foundation of the entire healthcare revenue cycle. Nothing can be built until they do their work. Nothing can be paid. Insurance doesn't happen. All of that doesn't happen. And they're called non-revenue generating. It's insanity. They are the core. These should be the people that are the highest paid and that are doing the work, and we should be listening to them. They know what's wrong with the system. They know what needs to be fixed. So I think it brings an advantage now. When I go to conferences and have these conversations, I think being a female and being the only founder that's leading a company, I think has a huge impact.
For sure. Yeah, whenever you're very familiar with the non-revenue generating argument, especially when it comes to the cybersecurity side that we do a lot too, because you're thinking about it and you're like, I mean, yes, it is, because you're saving time, you're saving money, you're preventing the cost of future stuff. And it's a very similar type of thing where it's like, how do people not see the benefit of it? But luckily we got Jennifer coming out with the fire, the competitive nature, and make people realize exactly what's going on, and hopefully save us all $1 and some heartache.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love it. I love it. Well, hey,
real quick, I got
go ahead.
one more question, as long as we got time.
Sure.
So Jennifer, last time we chatted, you told us that you were just getting started in a fundraising venture.
Yes.
I want to know how that went, if there's anything you learned from, because you said it was your first time doing fundraising as well. So
Yeah.
what'd you learn? Is there anything you would have done differently going into it next time? And then just kind of leave us with like, what's next for Eddy? Like, what you guys have going on?
Yeah. So our first fundraising round, our seed round was, again, friends and family. That's so easy. When you go to friends and family and somebody introduces you to somebody, plus you're not asking for these. We raised $1 million to start off. That was what we did. So now going back, we're kind of a pre-series A, I think is what they call it. And we're seeking $2 million. What I wish I had known, or what I'm learning, number one, the biggest thing I'm learning is that $2 million is not a lot to a lot of people in the investment world. When you send your information out and they come back and say, oh, well, you're only looking for $2 million. We start at 10, we start at 20. And you're like, well, I mean, you'd own our entire company at that price. So that's not really going to help us. I think I'm also learning that a lot of the investment firms, they're seeking unicorns. Like, they have this mentality of, it's got to be $1 billion exit. It's got to, these big, big numbers. If you would just kind of pare back a little bit, come look at the impact that a company is having in the space, look at what it can do, how it can expand, how it can grow, and especially in a field like ours, in a space like ours with healthcare admin. I think there is so much to gain from what we're doing. When you go to a company and say, look, we can save you a ton of money. You're paying this legacy system, and the fees that they're paying our competitors for a SaaS software, it's stupid. I had an organization of 20 providers, and they were quoted, it was $32,000. I came in at $8,500 and I closed the deal during the demo. If I'm SaaS, I don't need to onboard. I don't need implementation. I don't need all these other things. So back to the fund. Can you tell I'm trying to avoid the fundraising? It's such a weird, not weird. It's just novel to me. So what I'm learning is that there are VCs and investment firms that are looking big. Don't even touch those. Don't even spend your time. That $2 million to them is not worth it. They want much bigger. And so what we're focused on right now is finding those firms that are on the lower side, that are at that pre-series A, and are looking for smaller companies that they see the potential in. And so I'm having to separate those out. Prior to this, I thought all VCs would look at everybody. Not the case whatsoever. And so it's interesting to me. I would hope also, and what I'm hoping comes out of this is more of a focus on the founder. I have every bit of what I own in this company. My dad passed away. Financial advisor passed away 4 years ago. Financial advisor had lots of money. I inherited that. It went right into the company. Everything I have is in this company. And so failure is not an option. We're not going to fail. We know that. We've been around 9 years now. We're not going anywhere except up. We've got progress to make. And so my hope is that there is more of a focus on the founder, on the energy behind it, on the commitment behind it as to what we can do. And that we're able to partner with a really good investment firm that is just there to take us further. That's what we're hoping for. But it's a whole experience, fundraising, and a lot of wasted time on meetings. Holy smokes. And people that you try to preempt it. So I get maybe 10 a week. investment firms. Hey, are you looking to raise money? You're looking to raise money. And so I have this little template reply of, hey, I wanted you to know, here's where we were in 2024, 2025. I want to make sure that we meet your expectations or kind of your threshold for an investment. And 9 times out of 10, you get them coming back, oh, well, let's just have a conversation anyway. And then we're too small. Why did we have to get on and have a conversation when I already gave you the numbers, we're too small, but you just wanted to check in to make sure that whatever. So it's an interesting time. It's exciting. What we are planning on doing with this is the biggest pivot I think we could have. I love that word. I just think of Friends when I think of pivot.
Yeah, me too.
The pivot. What we are getting ready to do, so we've needed to refactor our database for a long time. And as you know, when you go in to refactor your database, you can either do it piecemeal or one big swipe. We've decided to rebuild it from the ground up using the AI tools that are coming to market, that are being published out there. It is so much smarter for us to do that than to go back and try to refactor. And so we're also going to be launching a mobile app for the providers so that they have it on their phone, on their iPad, much easier for them to do. And we are throwing AI agents at our software right and left. So we're looking at about a 6-month runway. Hopefully the funding comes in that while we're on that runway, but that's what we're looking to do. We just want to flip this space on its head. Being a disruptor, our competition cannot pivot. They cannot do anything differently. They are so grounded in the way it's been done and their software. When you look at the user experience in their software, you're talking click, 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 click. I'm a click counter. I count how many clicks it takes to get me through one process. But they cannot pivot. And so that's what we're getting ready to do. So we're excited. We think 2026 is going to be just a badass year for us. We're ready.
It's amazing. Amazing. Well, we have no doubt, Jennifer, the success that's going to continue to come your way, right? The growth is just going to continue upward.
Yeah.
And I also think the approach that you have to refactoring your data and just doing it kind of in one fell swoop, like it's a little bit more, because we do that a lot as well. And it's a little bit more effort on the onset, but the dividends really, really pay off later down the line. So I think that you're going to see that. And I just want to reemphasize that to you. I think that's just a really intelligent approach.
Yeah.
So
not if the technology is out there. And again, what we see today in these AI agents and other technology, give it 6 months. Yep. It'll be completely different. I mean, the capabilities just keep growing.
Right.
Why would we not use that to advance what we're doing? So we're excited.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And guys, if you're interested in learning more about Eddy and what Jennifer's got going on, we'll have those in the show notes, and be sure to have that readily available for anyone that's interested in learning more. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. This is such a great conversation, and it's always like much needed. Like I said, this morning I was having a whole bunch of shit not going the right way, and I was like, and then now we have an hour conversation. And